meant as a parent and as a teacher. My concern is you don't know if the child is playing some game or looking at some video during class. And I see it with with my children, where I have, even if I'm teaching, I have to monitor um, if they're on class or if they are looking at a video, if they're looking at Minecraft, or if they're playing a game and they're smart enough to minimize as you come in. And if that is in my home, I know it's the same thing in other people's other homes, where you can't really monitor. And even if I wasn't teaching and cook and clean and all of that while they're in class, you're not sure exactly what they're doing. So really, it's really an internal motivation you have to depend on. Um, and if you don't know about computers, then it's even more difficult. They could outsmart the parent or whoever it is that is supervising them. So it's really that distraction of other things that are on the computer, videos, Minecraft, games, that kind of thing. Thank you.
So we'll take two more experiences
Hi, good
from
day.
teachers. Hi, good day. So we'll just take two
I am
more, right?
Miss Sylvester from San Juan Girls Government Primary. My experience have been, to me, online teaching is really difficult. Well, from my point of view, because I have students there, I ask constantly for cameras to be turned on so that I am aware of, I am given that surety that you are in the class sessions with us. And on many instances, there's a child in particular. She's actually repeating standard two. I'm a standard two teacher. She's actually repeating standard two. And I believe that, she thinks that she has done the stuff already. So she doesn't need to be sitting there. So for instance, today I told the girls to go ahead and head up for grammar because we were going to start verbs. And when I told them to do that, like 10 seconds after, she was like, Miss, what are we heading up for? So for sure, I know that she was not where she's supposed to be. She was not sitting at her device and paying attention. And then we had this class for this session for 1 o'clock, and I ended class 5 minutes before the time. And I told everyone, okay, write down the homework and you could go ahead and leave the classroom, exit the classroom. And she still stayed on. So I noticed this person was still on, even though I said class has ended. And I think around 1:15, I heard her saying, miss, class over, miss, class over. So I left her there to keep asking. And after she probably asked about 5 times, then I turned on my mic and said, yes, Kimora, class has ended. I said that about 15 minutes ago. Had you been sitting at your seat where you're supposed to be, you would have known that class ended a long time ago. And she just simply hung up on the call. So in that case, you know that the students are not supervised, and you also are aware that most of the parents, they allow the foolishness to continue. Because when I ask her where's her mom, she says, well, mommy in the living room or whatsoever. So they are not even, looking up or going to see if the child is doing what they are supposed to be doing. They're just leaving them there because, right, you're in class, miss is there, miss will supervise you, but they are home with you. And the parents need to know that they need to have that supervision there for their child as well, because there's only so much the teachers can do. And I think at this point, I am literally frustrated and fed up of online teaching. I prefer to be in the classroom. So that's my experience, usually on a daily basis.
Hi, good afternoon. Marjorie Victor Santos, Government Primary. I am attached to Standard 1. I have listed some of the issues that I have been having. Notably, some of my colleagues have mentioned some of them. One of my major concerns or challenges surrounds the distractions and noisy environment. Sometimes during the class, you may call on various students to answer questions, and you would observe that there's a television playing, music playing, people shouting, laughing. And regardless of the fact that you have asked, I've had several meetings with my parents asking that the background be as quiet as possible, even though we're at home. And some try their best too, but television and music and so on. So oftentimes I have students say, Miss, I didn't hear what you're saying, Miss, I didn't understand, or something to that effect. Secondly, I also have the issue with the testing and the validity of the test. For example, your parents completing work, or giving students responses.
Let's come a minute.
I also have students who would be saying in the middle of the class, regardless of the several breaks that we may have, Miss, excuse, I could go to the bathroom now, or Miss, I have to go and eat. My mom didn't give me breakfast or lunch or whatever during the time that they're supposed to go. Because I try to keep the routine as much as school-like as possible, to replicate it as school-like as possible, to allow them to be familiar with it when we go back out to school. Devices not being charged and miss the device at 5%, or issues like these that are what I consider in the domain of the parent that I have absolutely no control over. And my thing is, how do we deal with these things? And I'm hoping that today's session helps me to be able to address and to cope with these challenges that I have been experiencing.
Okay, thank you so much. So you all did disclose a lot of the stuff that similar experiences, the inattention and disinterest. You find these kids are probably texting, writing each other privately through your Zoom sessions. They seem very restless, agitated, that they're not sitting still. They disrupt your classrooms. Some of the other things that we notice through other teachers as well is that the use of like obscene language from either the students or in the background noise. You hear all these obscene language. They may have incidents of the use of like pornography in terms of the images or sounds, as well as issues of cyberbullying and the inappropriate use of the online teaching, right? So you could hear from each other that you all are experiencing similar challenges within the classroom. And that's what we're going to address today, how to help each other through this time of online learning. Okay, so with behavior, a lot of factors that contribute towards a child's behavior could be either emotional issues, situational or environment issues, or even a neurobiological issue, because your brain plays a very pivotal part in the development of one's behavior. A lot of research has shown that the connection between neurotransmitter hormones such as like the serotonin, dopamine is related to how one behaves, whether it is positive or even negative. And another element towards a child's behavior is associated with their executive functioning. And your executive functioning is a set of mental skills which would include your working memory, how well like you store, retain, and retrieve information, how well they plan information, and their decision-making skills. And your executive function, main part too, is how well you have that self-control. So when there is like a deficit or dysfunction within the executive functioning, it's very hard for a child to probably follow rules, focus, they seem very inattentive, as well as they tend to act out and you see more aggressive types of behaviors. So this is one contributing factor towards some of the behaviors you might be seeing, right? I'm going to turn you over to Nadine to kind of explain some of the theories behind behaviors. Nadine, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I didn't put my mic back on. All right, so So now we're going to look at some two theories that I'm sure that you're all familiar with regards to how students might be impacted, or would help us to understand, how this online learning situation might be affecting them and causing some of the, or influencing some of the challenging behaviors that we currently seeing. So now we understand that how Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. We understand that Howard Gardner proposed 8 types of multiple intelligences. The logical, mathematical, those who are able, and which kind of emphasize the traditional way of assessing intelligence, being able to take tests well, being able to do math. Oh, can you hear me? Feedback. Okay, great. All right, we got that sorted out. Thank you. All right, and then you have the verbal linguistic, those who might be stronger in being able to engage in poetry, reading, writing, storytelling, and language related activities. Then, of course, we understand interpersonal. There are persons who are better at understanding people and understanding how to interact with people and so on. Then we have the body kinesthetic, those who are stronger in being able to do sports and movement, who seem to have who have a more natural ability where that is concerned. Then we have the musical abilities, where some persons are able to understand sounds and have abilities then in music that might be a bit more stronger than for others. Then, of course, we have the visual, spatial, and those persons have a sense of space. Those are the persons who have the skills like the interior designers and um, and sometimes our architects and so on. Persons have a sense of being able to understand space and how to manage that aspect. And then we have interpersonal intelligence, being self-aware, intrapersonal, that is, being able to understand yourself and being self-aware. And then the final one, naturalistic intelligence. And for those who might be have knowledge and ability in terms of nature, who might be great at gardening, the outdoors, and who could survive in that kind of environment even better. So understanding the theories of multiple intelligences, and then also looking at the VARK learning style, where we understand that children have where this particular theory proposes that there are different sensory modalities for learning and for processing information. And this was proposed by Fleming and Mills. Now, with these modalities make up the acronym VARC. They consist of the visual, oral, reading, and kinesthetic. Of course, the visual, where some persons who are able, or some students who benefit from being able to see, to appreciate and understand and learn using charts, graphs, maps, and so on, and diagrams or just pictures. They're able to learn better that way. Then we have the oral, the auditory. And so for those who are able to, who it's easier for them to be able to process information or that is spoken or heard, then we have with the reading or writing, right? Where there's a preference for information as displayed as words. And so students who have that kind of stronger preference for that particular mode are able to do better with that. And then of course kinesthetic, where we have that perceptual preference in terms of being able to move and that kind of thing. So as we look at the VARC, and we understand that there are these types of modes, these various modes of being able um, to understand the world and to be able to learn. We understand that now we think about children now transitioning into this online learning environment where teachers now have to be able to transition and try to adapt their teaching strategies to be able to cater for these various types of learning styles and multiple intelligences, and of course do this in an online environment. And I'll just take this moment to just give kudos to teachers out there who at almost the drop of a hat had to transition and adapt to this drastic change, and to understand that this change has affected teachers and it has affected students as well. And so, in terms of coping with with this transition, it has definitely been challenging, and was mentioned, as was mentioned before. So, even as we look at at Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences and the VAC learning style, we acknowledge now that the various ways of learning and various ways in which students are able to engage with the learning materials has been challenging for both students and for teachers as well in the current online context. All right, so next.
So, as we were speaking about some of like the ethics and appropriate online behaviors, some of the teachers said it previously just now, is that things that you must, first things we first state is your terms. So a lot of you have mentioned that you do make a list of rules before you start your sessions in class. So this may evolve over time due to like some of these things that you all experience. And for example, some of the first rules that you put is like no typing in all caps. You will discuss these rules with parents before. And I know a lot of you were saying that the parents are where you have some challenges with. So it is your parents' responsibility as well to participate in this online learning process. It's very important, I think, first off, is to ensure that the child is in a very quiet space where there is no noise or distractions, where they're able to be looking around and all of those things. In some households, I know it might be difficult because they would not have that allocated space, like an office space that some of us may have. So it is up to the parents to put them in a space where they're able to not be distracted, right? As well as to clearly identify some of the accepted online behaviors that is required of the student. So these are some of the things, and I know some of you teachers have said that you have started to do and you are doing. You could probably at this point, if anyone wants to share some additional things that they state in terms of their ethics and their rules, could take like probably 3 or 4 persons if they would like to say what are some of the rules that they state in terms of ethics of the classroom.
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, Adrian Thomas from Richmond Street Boys Anglican, currently teaching Standard 4. So, for my rules for a while now, I've been trying to avoid the word no. We normally say no running, no pushing, those kind of things, even in physical space. But rather reword it to actually say what is the desired behavior. Because for some of our children, let me not quantify how much, for some of our children, they come from environments where some of the behaviors that we say no to in school is their regular normal behavior or is acceptable behavior. So as opposed to just saying no, don't do XYZ, we actually tell them what is the alternative we want them to do. With regards to the online etiquette of cameras on, use of mic, etc., and even use of filters. I had to approach it from being empathetic and also considering what adults do here in these forums where sometimes we don't show our face, etc. And I can, for whatever reason, and though a child is a child, they too have their reasons why they think the camera shouldn't or can't turn on, whether it's the distraction or the family in the background in the inappropriate dress, or the children themselves not properly dressed. So, though I continue to repeat and I praise the ones who are giving me the ideal, I share what the ideal is. The ideal is cameras on, so I can see you. You make sure you unmute when called upon, but some boys know there are distractions in the background, and therefore, when I, so I praise the boys who are showing the ideal. The ones who are not, I give them varying degrees of flexibility. Allowing filters in my class allow the child to give me a silhouette of themselves if they think there's a distracting family member in the background, while also projecting an aspect of their personality because they would choose what filter best identifies them. And this way, moving my instruction, my whole atmosphere in my class from teacher centered to student centered is a way as well of providing those rules or those guidelines rather by promoting what the atmosphere of respect that I want. And I have experienced all the similar downs and problems that others have periodically, and from one child here today and next child here tomorrow. And similarly, adults don't maintain consistency. So it's only realistic for me to expect that consistency, but I do expect respect. So they do inform, well, sir, I haven't eaten breakfast yet. I need to, can I eat, please? Similarly, just in class space, there's some children who come late, and teachers are empathetic creatures, and we do allow them to go, eat, and come back in quickly before you miss the whole lesson. So that's my contribution with regard. I have much more, but not wanting to hog the time, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank, thank you so much. And those are some excellent etiquettes that you portray, do at your classroom. Does anybody else want to share? Because I think that this is a very good environment and forum for us to all learn from each other. So if another person wants to share what they do, that might be different.
Soraya and Dr. Dennis Isaacs, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, so teachers are still having some questions. They want to know if they can still ask some questions still, even though it is, you've been given rules. Is that okay?
I'm sorry, they
When you mean
want to, yeah.
For example, all right. So one of the things is that, okay, so you're saying that ensure that the child is in a quiet, safe space, but according
right.
to many of the teachers, they can't do that. So what are some of the strategies that if it is they can't do that, then how it is? So for example, one of the teachers would have said that the parents are in the back snoring. The child is not in a quiet, safe space, and regardless of trying to speak to the parents, the child still continues to not be in a quiet, safe space. Do you have any strategies that would assist the teachers to take away with them so that they can implement in their classrooms tomorrow?
All right.
Uh,
Well, well. First up, what I would recommend, would be to find a way to be able to reach out to the parents. I know I want to assume that teachers have been doing this, right? And have been probably sharing this information already with parents, but still re-emphasizing to the parents themselves the etiquette and also the challenges being shared. Also, in a situation like that, I think you may have to allow for the students to mute their mics until they have to engage, so that you could minimize the amount of noise or background noise that is coming on, because of course the children unfortunately don't have control over their environment. Many of them don't have control of what's going on in their environment, and many of them are living in different situations. So I'd say to try and engage the parents in trying to, as much as they can be engaged, to be able to create that environment where possible. And also, at this point, I would recommend for them to be able to mute, um, for the children to be able to learn how to mute at the appropriate times. Anything else you want to add to that, Soraya? Or
Um,
is there anything on, and teachers? Are there any other teachers who have had similar challenges and have implemented other strategies that have worked for them?
And then just to add as well to, because I know a lot of you have said that you do speak to the parents. I think in terms of the conversation with the parents as well, to try and make it very relatable in terms of telling the parents, because a lot of them possibly has online work meetings or have online stuff to make it very more relatable is that how would they feel in a situation like that if they were experiencing that? Like it's very distracting, kind of make it more relatable to them too, so they get more understanding of what the other children are going through within the classroom environment. So in terms of making it more relatable for the parents to understand the challenges as well too.
Right.
Mhm.
And
Hi.
even just to add just some of the things that are listed on the slide right here in terms of engaging and making a list of rules and trying to reiterate these rules, and I assume that those things are already being done, but we still have the information we're sharing that here to kind of reemphasize those things with the parents so that they can be able to understand and to discuss the rules and etiquette with the parents, and if not even with the parents, the children. All right, and identify some of the accepted online classroom behaviors. I think I heard one of the teachers previously mentioned, but of course some persons would have their rules as to whether it's cameras on and cameras off, right? Well, I think that's something I probably might address a little later on, but I know that for some teachers, with some teachers have kind of adapted to the cameras
Since
off
even that shredder doesn't come here, it's out here.
in some scenarios because sometimes of the circumstances of the students. Some students are living in situations where they their environment might be a little bit might have some things in the environment that they won't want to show. They might be embarrassing for them. And so some I noted in another presentation that the teacher was saying they give the students that opportunity to kind of preserve their dignity, so other students wouldn't tease them about their situation and so on. And then of course, some other teachers would have another approach of insisting on the cameras being on based on their situation and so on. So, there are the pros and the cons of taking these that particular approach. All right.
And we are
And
going to go through. Sorry, go ahead.
hi everybody. This is Kimberly Campbell, behavioral specialist. I
Oh
just
yeah.
wanted to add something quickly to what my colleagues were saying with respect to how do you manage a child who is not in a quiet environment and does not have access to a quiet environment. So the long-term solution would be to develop that relationship with the parent and note the importance of them being in a quiet environment during learning time. You want to create an environment that's conducive to school as much as possible that you can do in your home. And also the short-term solution, the quick solution, it could be, as my colleague said before, on mute until it's their time to speak, and also utilize the chat as well in times where
Think it may
can't
have
teach
dropped.
anything, then they should utilize the chat. And that will also help if you have students who are not comfortable putting on their camera. You can use the chat as a way to make sure that they are engaged. You can ask them a question. You can say, okay, now everybody, I need you all to type such and such in the chat. Type an X in the chat. Let me know you're still here. And that to make sure that they're engaged and they're still there. They don't have their camera off and muted and they're off doing something else, that they're still paying attention. That will also keep them on their toes as well. So I just wanted to add that little bit.
And
Right.
one of the other strategies you could probably do, because you all could correct me if you all haven't tried it, or if you have, you've been explaining the etiquettes and been telling them the rules verbally. One good tip is probably to have them write it down as a checklist, like how it was at the beginning of this presentation. You have a checklist. They put it up right next to their computer, so the child is reminded, as well as the parent is reminded of what are the rules before classroom starts and while classroom is going on. So they have that visual aspect, so they see it and they could always remember it. Is a very good strategy as well to try. I think somebody was asking a question. I'm not sure.
I would like to say something.
Sure.
Um, I don't think that I'm a teacher. I don't think that what I have to say that people would readily accept, but I have found that it worked for me. I've been in both instances, and I'm saying that, yeah, like in the example where the parent is asleep and you're hearing them snoring, you speak to the parent, but sometimes it's according to how we approach the parent. A gentle answer in this case, a gentle approach turns away wrath, right? And if we start with, we know what we want to address, but if we start with something positive, it may be insignificant, however it's something positive. An example: I am glad that you're home when during class, so that he or she, your child, you're present. And they may feel bad and start to explain, and we should listen to the explanation. We could accept it or we could reject it, whatever we choose. But at the end of the day, we want to address the fact that you're asleep, and that is a distraction, and it's a sleeping energy that you are creating, and we want an awake energy for learning, right? So at the end of the day, you still get your point across of putting the child, allowing the child to be in a different space in the room, or somewhere else in order when they're in class. However, we also have to, and I know it's a tall order, because we also have our issues as teachers, and but yet still we have to somehow take in, accept, or listen to their plight. And it should not change what we're going to say or how firmly we're going to say it, but at least we should at least give them the space, and we should let them feel good about something that is good, and then we go into what we want to speak about, what we want to address. Because I had an instance where my child is on and the grandmother is passing half naked in the background. I didn't deal with it at that time, but after I called her and I told her, I am really grateful for you being present and telling him to pay attention. And then when I got into her attire, she was more receptive. And I know not all parents will be the same. However, I think it will kind of help them to know that Miss is human too, and Miss would listen, or Sir would listen, and then we make our point. Thank you very much.
Hi, good
Hi, good
evening.
day. Hello.
Just a suggestion. Just as we had when we were in school, reward systems, or Miss Matthews, sorry, we can use like a reward system, a point system. Now we have emojis, and depending on the platforms we are using, we can put up all emojis and reward them. Another thing is that for the parent, the homes that is not accommodating in terms of the background, you can suggest let the child make a mural, let it be an open competition, and they put it up and they maintain that background until. It's just a suggestion.
All right.
Great.
Hi, good day, everyone. Ms. Sanchez Juve, Dabity Government. One of the problems or challenges I am experiencing is where the parents answering for the children, and many times I have to address the parent gently and let them know that they should not answer for the child. So you find that what happens, I'm dealing with second year students, you find that the child now is no longer depending on herself or himself to answer the question. They're looking to the parent to answer the question. And many times I have to address the parent and say, you know something, it's okay if they spell something wrong. It's okay if they read something wrong. I am here to correct. And what you need to do is give them a chance to think, because if they're in an exam room by themselves, they have to answer for them. That will depend on themselves. So I have to continuously address the parents about that matter. Thank you.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Rachel Galera Pierre from Princestown West
Wanted to find out,
Secondary.
students were asking if, since they were broken into the smaller groups, if each group had to come up with their own problem statements and their own project,
because they initially thought that all 15 of them would have been working on
Is this
one
related to
project.
this presentation?
So we just wanted to clarify if it was going to be 3 different projects, they had to come up
Need to
with.
be muted.
If somebody needs to be
Laura
muted.
Palak needs to be muted.
Hi, good afternoon, Mrs. Spear, Princeton West Secondary. At the secondary level, the concerns are more that the students are not coming online. They are not as supervised as the primary school students. So our concerns are not necessarily we have the parents intervening during the school hours. Our problem may be so that the parents are not even aware of what is happening during the school hours. So we have children from forms 1 to even form 6 where the attendance is very low. We have, and when I say very low, in the sense that they are just not fulfilling their responsibilities online. So they are not doing assignments at time, they are not attending class, not attending rule. And of course, strategies would be put in place. The form teachers will contact the parents, the deans, the vice principals may get involved. So for us at that level, the challenging behavior is that we recognize that we have students who are not coping with the online at that level. They are not able, I would say it like that, to take that responsibility and get themselves in class, stay for the entire session because, well, I can only speak for us, it's an hour sessions, hour period for per subject. They are not able to mentally motivate themselves to do what they have to do. And most parents for those children at that age are not at home with them. So yes, we can do the referrals, and yes, we can do the parental conference via WhatsApp or Zoom. But at the time, it still remains that the challenging issue, which is what we're dealing with here, is that we have children who are not coping well with online. And they're not coping is in the fact that they are not present at class or they are not submitting assignments. And I would really like to hear the strategies that would assist at this level to deal with that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, so far our recommendations, I mean, I think you mentioned some of the things that um, would be engaged in a situation like in situations like these, where the deans and the principals will do their own preliminary checks to see what's to try and check base, and see what's going on. And of course, the school, the SBIT teams in the school would try to reach and kind of mitigate those situations before they are submitted as referrals. Because what would happen is if a child is absent, right, and if they are absent or they're not showing up for class, and of course they're not coping well because of various factors, then they would have to be referred to social work or referred to support so we could find out what's going on with these children and to be able to to get them engaged and get them on for these classes. So in terms of dealing with that, because as you mentioned, Ms. Galera, if I'm clear on what you were saying, that teachers are already trying to engage some children via Zoom, trying to engage them via WhatsApp, but then there are still some students who are falling through the cracks, who are not being able to reach these children or reach their parents. And that is when it gets to that point where we're not able to access or reach them, then we need to engage supports where it is we to have to check in on them. And if my
Well,
colleagues have anything to add on yet with where that's
just
concerned.
just just to correct one part, we have those we are not able to reach. So we move on to the social workers and referrals, but I'm also
Right.
referring to the students who they are in class, they have the devices, or
Okay.
they have the devices, they are registered for online, but because their parents, no parental supervision, they are missing classes. They will just say, I got up late, I didn't get in class. It's just those excuses. So how
Mhm.
then are you dealing with that type of challenge. And those who can't get online, we know it's just to contact them and through the social worker. But those who have devices, but just don't have the motivation to get up and get behind their devices, that is the more challenging issue.
If if
All
I
right.
may
So,
share, sorry,
okay, we get, yes, go ahead, sir. You go ahead and share.
if I may share, though at the primary level, I think it may be adapted for secondary. Um, every Monday morning is a standing order for my parents to join the Zoom at 10 o'clock for at 9:30 to 10 for half an hour. Usually Monday morning is where I give my students their briefing on the conduct of their work the week before, just if they've kept up with their online platform assignments, their Google Classroom assignments, Academy or whatever else it may be. And also addressing the attendance also being not only present in the morning when roll is called, but we noticed that by the time we ended before lunch, Joshua, I did not on repeatedly we were asking you a question and there was no visual or written response or audio response. So these kind of synopsis, as I'm giving the children their feedback, the parents are allowed to sit in at the same time. So the ones they won't reach for all because some parents, just like in class before COVID, really are hands-on, but some who are hands-on often say, well, I just didn't know. I didn't realize he was missing. So that opportunity once a week, I figure for secondary school might be once every 2 weeks when there's, and probably the information may have to be passed on to the homeroom teacher. So it might be a homeroom session. And regular feedback, at least timely, allows interventions to take place sooner rather than waiting for it to go through the student support services system and a month, 2 months or the term has passed.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir, for that. And so what we're hearing here is in finding ways to be able to reach the parents and to engage them in to a certain amount of so to engage the parents and have them involved with the children and giving them that weekly feedback so that they are part of the process, they are connected and they keep abreast of what's going on. That's what I think I'm hearing there. Any other parents, not parents, sorry, any other
Yes.
teachers with strategies that they have used for challenges, for similar challenges?
I'm not sure
Hi,
if
good
it's
day. If I may.
strategy,
Hi.
but
Hi.
hi. But I just
Yes,
want to say something before you begin that
no problem.
some teachers on the chat,
Oh yes,
they're
okay.
speaking to, yeah, this is Dr. Conrad Christopher.
Yes,
There's
yes,
some
yes.
teachers on the chat, they are referring to, they're asking specifically for psychosocial emotional support strategies. One of the things that, from what it is I'm gathering in my inbox, is
Mm-hmm.
that the ones they understand parental support. So
Right,
they are speaking to, they want to know what about the teachers who do not have that parental support? Because we
right.
know that COVID is very difficult mentally for different children depending on their development. Of course, I'm not an expert in that part of education, right? But we know that, for example, even my son, we have to contend with not only the geography and the physics, but we also have to contend with the Minecraft and the Call of Duty. And there are also different servers that teachers may or may not be aware of. So while it is the teacher is teaching, yes, they're even looking as if they're looking at you, but they're actually on Discord or they're playing Call of Duty or they're playing Fortnite, but they're actually looking at you. And some of our
Mm-hmm.
students too, what's happening with them is that while it is they are there, they are not emotionally present because some of these students have, when it is we have engaged with students within the TAPDD department, they are saying that they find that it doesn't make sense for them to continue school because they do not see a future. So
Mm-hmm.
some of those are some of the issues that the child may be facing. So the teachers would like to see what sort of psychosocial emotional support, bearing the fact that yes, Mr. Adrian was very good and in saying that, to involve the parent, and he gave some good strategies as well as you, but they also want to know how to motivate that student, how to, help that student see that, yes, continue to come to school, get up, come to school, put on, whether or not you put on your camera, but at least be present. That's some of the feedback that I'm getting over on this side.
Okay. All right. So some of the answers that we have some of those things coming up in our like later on in our like our final slide, right? And just so we are just I was just relating to my lead. He's trying to get in the room, but I think it's a little too full. So that's Mr. Delancey. He's just trying to get in, but I guess that there's no room in the inn.
Okay, so
Right?
what we will do is we will get him in. The room
Okay.
is actually filled, but we will probably, one of us will come up, so Mr. Delancey would be able to come on.
Right. And just to kind of track back to what you were saying that you want to know what kind of psychosocial and social emotional support they can give to the students while they are dealing with all of these challenges. Yes, they know that of course we have to engage parents. Yes, we have to understand that and deal with the etiquette and all of that. But how are we going to be able to help children to really engage and actually be a part of the whole learning process, right? Um, there are some strategies. Okay, just to jump ahead of what we're going to look at in terms of the tips that Soraya is going to be covering in a little bit, but I'll just touch base with some of that now. Is that I know that engaging the students, going through the extra step of trying to engage students in creative ways. All right. I know in a previous presentation, there was some teachers who would have done some kind of I would call it innovative or things that would have engaged students to allow them to feel a part of the class, become a little bit more creative, have them engage in certain types of activities and check-ins so that they could feel a part of the whole class and to have a kind of, how to put it, um, if I want to call it a kind of class family environment where they would feel a part of it all. And then we have And then in terms of providing the psychosocial emotional support, we need to also acknowledge sometimes when we engage with the students that listen, this is hard. This is not easy. It is challenging. Just to recognize and to understand that it is challenging. This whole online learning process is challenging for both teachers and for students. All right. And to be able to give them, to let them know that listen, they are they are not alone, that they are not alone in in this. All right, and give them the opportunity to share how they really feel about it, how they feel about the transition, how they feel about because I know for a lot of children. I was talking to a friend just yesterday, and while she might consider her son, pretty well adjusted and doing well, he is still very frustrated with just dealing with his computer, right? And wants to see his friends and wants to engage and all of that. And so children somehow, because of their own their frustrations and their emotional responses, are not only just disengaging, distracting themselves in different ways, they are not necessarily coping that well. So in terms of providing that social and emotional support, I think one of the first things to do is just to really and truly acknowledge first off that it is challenging, it is hard, and that they are not alone in the whole experience. So, um, Dr. Christopher, what I want to do is just to tack back, just to bring Ms. Dean in now to just go through some of these other aspects that she's going to be covering. And I think I might just go back because she's dealing with this section and I'm dealing with the crisis segment there. Or I could just probably just wrap up the crisis segment real quick and then transition her into the final tips that will close off. And of course, allow for the other set of questions to come in
Yeah.
to finalize it. All right.
I
So
know everyone is just eager about the tips and strategies,
yeah. So
but
that's what I'm saying. So
so
let's
we
just do
just
the
wanna
crisis
Yeah,
The
one of
quietest
the
answer.
mhm.
So I will do this. I will do this. I'll summarize this really quickly. All right. So in terms, another one of the challenges, one of the things coming out of the dealing with challenging behaviors in the online environment, as many teachers have already mentioned, there are some things that you would notice about children in their environment that would indicate that they might be in danger or they might be in crisis. And there are some indicators that teachers might have observed or might have experienced. All right. Some of what I've heard before would be like some of the background visuals you might indicate abuse or neglect. And then, of course, we have to also understand that there are certain dynamics that might be different in some settings. So, for example, while there are some people who might be very alarmed about this child sandwich between their parents and hearing the parents snoring, class is going on, and so on. That is just the norm and reality for some students. So we just trying to be able to observe and see, even while it is you're engaging in the online environment with the students, some of the crisis indicators. All right, we want to know that if okay, the child has incomplete, hasn't haven't they haven't completed their work, or no work is being done, or does the child have any supervision at all during the school hours? Is the child there alone? All right, and is the child being abused in the background? We had the unfortunate experience coming across the news where a student was actually being violated during class, and was unfortunately the other students had to watch because the perpetrator didn't know that they were live. So there's some crisis indicators that teachers will be exposed to, and of course we would advise to contact the necessary officers, the principal, the SSSD referrals, and so on. And according to what you experience or what you see or you observe, you call the police. All right. So that's just that part of it. I just want to transition now for Ms. Dean to go ahead with the tips and for us to continue with the questions that are coming along.
Right. So the tips are for both teachers and students as well. Sorry. Um, One of the main things is to be familiar with your devices and the softwares that you use, because children are very tech savvy and they'll know a lot more than we know. So we need to keep up to date as to what is the new thing and how to maneuver the Teams or the Zoom. As a previous teacher had said earlier in the workshop, which I think was a really good idea, was the use of the filters. At least use an appropriate one to make it more interactive, a little more fun. That is not just like work, and then you have to be submitting all the assignments too. As well as with the emotional aspect, as Dr. Danis was saying, was that to do that check-in with your students, especially you would be able to recognize those students who are much more less motivated than the others. Those that you recognize are acting that way is to do that check-in, acknowledge what is happening with them, be relatable, and even give your experiences too, because for us being online for how many hours throughout the day watching a screen, it is very hard on the eyes, it's tiring, it's draining, it's a lot for every individual. So you could let the student know as well, I even understand what you're feeling because I feel the same way, given that sense of empathy, right? And for teachers to really have appropriate time management for your day. So to establish work hours and have a work schedule that is very realistic work hours, and making sure that you have predictable breaks in between. Because if you continue to just keep going like a robot kind of way, you will tend to feel burnt out. You will tend to get frustrated. You will get exhausted. So to have those breaks in between for yourself and for the students as well. for the teachers to plan your sessions beforehand so you feel much more prepared. Communicate this within your household. So these are some tips for the teachers as well. Well, mostly for the teachers, is to communicate within your household as well, your schedules, so that the individuals in your household will know what is happening. You will have their support and accommodation, that you won't get distracted by them or anything like that. Right? Let's see. And same as your student, to make sure that you have a space designated to work that is quiet, that is not full of distractions, and that you could concentrate. Try to avoid doing work in a bedroom or on your bed, because that is like your safe space for relaxation, for your sleep time, and you don't want to associate work and sleep on the same area. So have your own workspace. Not all of us have a work office area, so even if it is on your dining room table, and you just kind of allow the members of the household to know your work schedule and to know your timing. Nadine, do you have anything else to add in?
Nothing.
Before
Nothing
you
else.
add anything,
Okay.
this is Dr. Christopher again. Before you all add anything, what about those students who are unable to have that private workspace? So, for example, you have students who are sharing devices as well as sharing like a one-room table. So you have my brother is in standard 4, my sister is in standard 1, my elder sister is in sixth form, I am in form 4. How do you then help and support a student who does not have that physical workspace that is separate to other parts of the home, who may not be so privileged?
I just want to take this opportunity just to acknowledge. I think Mr. Delancey, he's finally here. He made it.
Yes.
Right. So if it
Absolutely.
is you want to join in on this one, but I would just say in terms of being able to deal with situations like that, as a teacher, I would want to acknowledge again, um, it mightn't necessarily drastically change the situation, but still let the student know that okay, you understand this is what's happening with them now, and to encourage them to be able to, as far as possible, to be able to pay attention, to be able to do their particular activity, um, as best as they possibly can under under the circumstances, right? I think that there might also be I would also recommend probably the options of where some of the work, because some of the time, if all of the students are engaged in live presentations, or live teaching sessions at the same time, where they have to listen to persons in the background, their siblings and so on, talking and interacting in class, and at the same time, it could be real confusing. It will be really challenging for them to, even to the best of us, to be able to concentrate in a situation like that. So I know that there are some teachers who are using packages, or may give them assignments and so on, that can be done during those times, if that is an option that they can use to be able to kind of engage, or at least to be flexible where those things are concerned, because it's I mean, it is really, it's tough. For one of it is challenging. Soraya, you were going to say
Yeah.
something, or
To
Alex?
add to that, no, to add to what you're saying as well too, I know, well, within my district, that is a challenge in terms of the amount of devices in the household is probably one device per like 3 kids. What we're encouraging is that the schools that are able to and can is to do printed packages for those students. If the school is able, because a lot of the schools do printed packages, if you are able for the parents to request the printed packages for some of the kids, for those who don't have enough devices in the household. So that is something we recommend if it's available within the school.
And just to add another recommendation with regards to that, good evening to everyone. I think that some teachers they are very creative. As a matter of fact, when I went to school, and who do we have here? We have what, secondary, primary? Who do we have?
Both.
Both. All right, excellent. So when I went to primary school and even secondary school, some of my teachers were really, really creative. And back then, I mean, when I went to school, things like the internet, they probably had the internet, but in terms of like social media, those things were not something that was readily available. So recording stuff, a teacher can possibly record something and be able to send that recording to a number of students who may have maybe just one device, so that student could listen to it at another time. Or it could be audio recording, it could be video recording, and just like what we're having right here now, if this is being recorded, this could be listened to at any other time, which means that it's nice. All of us we're here, and getting the information at the same time is a beautiful thing. But for some of our kids, it may be advantageous for them to probably have a recording, and some of them may actually benefit more so from a recording than actually having the class at the same time with everybody else. So maybe those are some of the things that teachers could consider. Upfront, it may seem like a lot of work, but once you get the hang of it, you and all might start enjoying it and realize that could become a very mainstream tip or technique that you can use in your classroom.
So just like open up the floor for like more questions and
Uh,
concerns.
Okay, well, sorry, I just wanted to just to kind of just to add to something I just remembered something related to what someone had asked before in terms of children being distracted and how you know how to engage them. Some persons watching playing games and so on while class going on. I know it would have been probably would have been done in some of the teacher trainings before, but just to also encourage teachers, even though it's been challenging, it's been hard, to ensure that we use multiple forms of bringing across the information, using videos, using activities, using games, because now with the way things are going, according to what I heard I think I heard the last thing I heard the Minister of Education saying that blended learning is here to stay. So, to some extent, while we might will transition back to the classroom, we will continue to work in the online environment in some way, in some shape or form. So in terms of using different creative ways of presenting the materials and engaging and so on. I know teachers have been doing really good work where that's concerned, so just keep on and being very creative also. So I
And
think Soraya.
another thing too with the games while being online, again, responsibility of the parents too is to have a privacy setting on certain sites, and they could only unlock it when they have that free time after school. So that is something as well to look into, and to motivate the kids to is to really have like reward systems. So when they actually complete assignments, when they do something that they're supposed to do, is to have a reward system in place, even if it's affirmations, even if it's stickers, those kind of things to give them more motivation to want to come online, to want to do the work, and those kind of things as well. I'm seeing a lot of hands up, so we could take some questions.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good evening.
I'm,
Good afternoon.
I'm Beverly. I'm Beverly Holder. I teach at a primary school. I teach Standard 2. This morning, we have 3 Standard 2 classes. This morning, all 3 Standard 2 classes met on Zoom. And the children were overjoyed at being able to see and interact with each other. At my own Standard 2 class, we have games where we have been doing spot the differences and so on together. And there's a line called flippity.com. They have a spin the wheel. So my children's names are in that wheel. And when I spin it online, it seems fair. Everybody gets a turn. and they're all excited about that. So they constantly say, could I remember to send the link for the game? So they have an opportunity to play the games after with each other. I have also allowed them, with their parents' permission, to play games that they would play with each other online. So they're all into getting some social time with each other apart from just the academic. And that really seems to bring a little me time and friend time into the online that they are appreciating. So we need to get a little bit off only the academics. I don't know how that will work in secondary school because I monitor those who come into the classroom and so on really rigidly because I do not want outsiders in. So that's something that has to be monitored, but my children are really happy for that contact time other than just academics with their peers.
Hello,
Okay,
good
that's
afternoon.
recommendation. Yeah.
Afternoon, my name is Anthony Steelen. I'm a teacher of Holy Trinity Anglican School in Moruga. I'm just asking if the teacher who just spoke, if she could repeat the website that has those games, please.
Flippity.com has a number of games that you get a demonstration. You can copy and modify to suit your class. The other, it could be a general search, spot the differences, and they get an opportunity to take turns to see what's different between the two pictures.
Thank you
Hi,
very much.
hi,
Good
Miguel
afternoon.
from
Hi, good afternoon.
Darcy. I would just like to say something, and I am open to hearing if anybody thinks that maybe I'm doing something wrong. Please, I would like to hear it. Um, the rain is falling, so if I sound a little hard, it's because I'm trying to compete with the noise of the rain now. Um, yeah, my sessions are like this. The I try not to have the students do play games and do what they want when they think I can't see them, because I engage them during our sessions. I ensure that they write, they answer questions for a point. I give out. I have a system where I give out a points for preparedness for class, a point for sitting attentively, screen time behavior that is not interrupting, being polite, uh, you know, just being polite, like how they be polite in class and they sit and they just relax and I can't explain it exactly, like because I watching my daughter doing something. See, you know, stop that. Thank you. Um, and marks for like completing assignments and submitting on time and thing. And I believe that this incentive works for me. It works. It doesn't cut into like the parent and the student asking not to read out the video or go through work that I've prepared. The work that I'm preparing is really my guide and their guide, yes, but it's really to do on their own spare time. Afternoon time, whenever internet cut off, these things no current, but they are downloaded the file, these types of things. So I try to ensure continuity at, if not all time, most times. And if anybody telling me that oh yeah, the lady who talk about the games, I actually use another site. I can't really find the name right now, but yeah, I use that as an incentive to, once we finish on time every day, we play a game. If it's Ludo, Snake and Ladder, Monopoly, we actually use the Google Meet because it enables a longer session time, and I could allow multiple screen sharings now. Multiple people could use the screen so they could get to roll the dice for their own and these things. And they did this, it works. It works. It actually gets them to sit down and say, so what kind of game we playing today? So I have a game I would like to share with the class. And sometimes they even might have a session and I might allow one child who did very well in the weekly test to host a session by, you know, like part of a session, like 10 minutes, and they would say certain things and ask questions and, give them that teacher feeling so that they would understand how I feel while I am teaching and they are distracting others and distracting me and causing disruption. So I kind of, like within my first 3-4 weeks, I kind of sifted out those problems by giving incentives early and things. It's just somebody could critique me if they're like, but that's just me. That's just my little piece.
Good afternoon. Tinal Chase from Macaulay Government Primary. Just to add to the engage and motivate students. What I normally do, I use like Darwin Darmain. I don't know if you're all familiar with him, and other motivational videos, YouTube videos. When I identify a problem within the class, I will go and search, and I will post the video up and have children watch the video, and then we will discuss the video. And while discussing the video, I will pull out the problem that I saw within the class, and sometimes even the students and all will pull out the problem, and then you bring them to the point where it is, how it is they could change that, what they could do, how we move forward. And setting goals is very important, because normally what myself and my co-teacher do, what we will do, we will set goals, mainly on Monday morning. We will set goals, what we have to accomplish and how can we accomplish this during the time frame, what you need to do. So setting goals is very important, very important.
Hi, good afternoon. During the course of persons sharing their content or their comments, there's a recurring word that keeps popping up, and that was parents. What provisions are made, just as how there are multiple and numerous courses being available for teachers to modify teachers? What provisions are made to assist us by getting the parents to cooperate? In terms of, are there any courses or some program that can be broadcasted throughout the nation that parents are obligated, not obligated, but parents are educated on? Because it's not the children per se, it's mostly the parents. And whilst we as teachers try to address it individually, when they hear a conference coming from the ministry, parents bypass the schools, they bypass teachers, and they just go, and mind you, parents know the policies now of ministry, and then they will come down on teachers, but this wasn't this briefing, and they would list out all these things. So that communication, and that is all the parents would regurgitate. Now, are there any provisions in courses or something to alert, educate, teach, address any issue dealing with parents? That's my contribution. Thank you.
All right, so before Mr. Delancey and his team addresses the issue, I would like to address the issue from our side. So we would have started to educate parents on how to use Microsoft Teams as well as the different platforms. We have parental workshops the same way that we have teacher training workshops with our teachers. And the same issue that we would have is that those deconverted attend more than the ones who we need to be there. So I know that social workers are also going in and they are conducting their own parental seminars. But note that I know that some schools have actually sent out the parenting seminars that we would have, indicating how to support your students at home. And I also know that the Student Support Services Division, they also held parental webinars. If you need to, we can also send you the schedule for our parents, because we would have sent it out previously, where it is principals would have sent it out to their parents. But rest assured, miss, that we know that parents are a key cornerstone in this entire triangle. We know that, and we are supporting them. Mr. Delancey, from on your end.
Yes, definitely. Mrs. Correct, the social work unit for in the student support services, as well as the guidance unit, consistently do training from time to time. Now, it is true that a number of occasions, the individuals that you will prefer to see by way of parents are not always those who come. Now, what is interesting is that I often say to teachers, one of the key things to get parents involved is to have them become involved before a problem arises. Now, people like to feel that they are part of something, a part of the child's education, a part of the child growth and development and learning, and not just the teacher alone. Now, it's true, there are some parents, I agree, there are some parents, they will simply give you the responsibility to raise their children until age 18, just about the right time for them to get them out of the house. But there are some parents who really don't know. And because they're not too sure exactly how to do this thing, even though some of the parents, it's not like they're in their late 80s, 90s, or anything like that, but they may not be aware. This is new. This online system is new for a lot of people. So it means that there has to be some kind of a collaboration more than just when there's a problem. So teachers, the encouragement therefore is we at the end of the day, regardless of we teacher, parent, or what we mean, or whatever career we belong to, if we have 2 children, 3 children, or no children, we are part of a system, right? Yuri speak about a system, a ecological system. We're all part of something. So making connections with people is so vital. So as a teacher, call the parents, send a WhatsApp. Some of you all have these WhatsApp group chats. Say hello, tell the parent that your child is doing extremely well in this area. Probably this particular area they could pay a little attention to, but they're improving in mathematics. You were talking to the chemistry teacher just last week, and the chemistry teacher was, now you teaching maths, eh? The chemistry teacher was saying, but you're talking to the parent. The chemistry teacher was saying that, little Curtis improving, and that's an excellent thing. I've seen where he's also improving the mathematics. A parent hearing that over time, what it does is that it helps that parent to recognize that they should also be key, because not only are the teacher is a teacher calling, but there are teachers who are observing this child and saying good things about the child. And what I find, generally speaking, in some cases, it may not necessarily be that it works. But what I generally see is that when parents feel that they are part of the child's learning and not just, well, there's a PTA, so we have to go to them, people think, they're more likely to participate and to cooperate. More likely.
All right. Okay. All right. All right. So thank you for that, Valanti.
Uh,
Miss, Dr.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Hi.
Yes.
Just at point, a teacher, primary school teacher at Rochelle Douglas Presbyterian. Just to add to the point what the speaker was saying before, and I listened to the gentleman speaking just now. I think I agree with what she said. Although there are avenues where parents can access the support, parental support, based on online learning, we still have a problem. We are still faced with this problem where online learning is going to be challenging. And when we take anecdotal reports and we look at blended learning and continuous of education and we put it together and we look at what's going on in the classroom itself, we still are faced with a lot of challenges based on students' social, economical backgrounds, based on their home environment, based on all these things that are taking place in their individual environment at home. And some of the challenges that we are faced with, we definitely cannot solve them. So we need some sort of support group. My recommendation is this is a Ministry of Education platform. I have heard lots of good things coming out from the teachers who spoke before, and it's amazing. I don't have an issue in my classroom per se. I think I do basically follow all the rules, but in terms of solving the problem and identifying the crisis of these students and solving the problem at hand, we need to form some sort of group within the school system. That is my recommendation from the Ministry of Education, where they can actually, just like how you have supervisors visiting our schools and all that, where they can actually come into our schools and get involved with these individual parents who need that assistance. Otherwise, you'll be faced with a major problem where at the end of the school year, you have students who totally fall through this crack or crease that we all talk about in local language, and you will not find them. We'll have a bigger problem with other things that comes when this happen, where we have more crime, more situations taking place. You don't want students and children to become after age 18 on the streets and be doing all these things. So if we want to avoid having a major crisis in our country based on what is going to take place with this online learning, if we are to continue, as the Minister of Education said, blended learning, I totally believe that we need to form some sort of group within the school system. Like I said, just like how you have supervisors and SS1s and SS2s coming to our school, where they can actually be involved with the school principals and the teachers to deal with the individual students, because there are a lot of individual students, not just one in every class, not just two in every class. Based on what I'm hearing here and based on what I've heard from my colleagues, 2 and 3 and 4, that's a lot of students, more than what we had previously in our normal classroom settings. So I don't know if other teachers who are listening to me totally agree with what I said, but that is basically my point that I wanted to share. And to summarize what I heard here this afternoon on this platform, I've been listening to everyone, and to summarize what I've heard and what I have been doing, I think basically we need to find a solution based on what's happening in our school system right now.
Okay.
Right. Just
Good
to
afternoon.
respond to Miss Quick, just to respond to Miss Quick, Miss actually, not just the teachers agree with you that we will have some bit of a problem in the future, but I too agree. But I tell you what we have in student support services are 4 units. We have these units that are set up to treat with a number of these issues that are presently and have been in brief. So, for example, we have the special education unit, we have the AI unit that has psychologists, behavioral specialists, school and clinical psychologists. We have the guidance counselors, guidance officers, and we also have the social workers, school social workers. So we have been working and making inroads in addressing a number of the problems or challenging behaviors or challenges that our students are experiencing. It is true that there are some that we may not get to. That is a possibility. It's unfortunate, but it's a possibility. But the vast majority of persons who are referred to us, and I'm certain that all the teachers here will have heard of the referral process, whereby you can, through your principal, refer to student support services for us to have persons in your school, have persons on the ground, so as to address a number of the behavioral or even economic issues. Our social workers, they work tirelessly trying to see how best they can address. But of course, the entire country does have a challenge where economic is concerned. But just to add, we do have a system and we encourage all right, of referring students so that we know how best and how quickly we can address a number of the challenges or issues that they are experiencing.
Okay. All right. All right then. Um, all right then. So just want to thank everyone for their participation and engagement. We won't be able to take any more questions at this point in time, but as we prepare to close, we just want to thank um, the folks at teacher training, Dr. Conrad, Christopher, and her team for their invitation to present, and thank the teachers who've come on here to not only just listen but to really participate and engage. I think in each one of these sessions, I always leave with with new tips from teachers who have found creative ways to be able to work through some of the challenges, and also challenged to do even more research to be able to provide the support that is so needed even now as we face the current challenges that we have in our education system. So once again, on behalf of the Developmental Assessment and Intervention Unit, on behalf of my colleagues, Ms. Dean, um, Ms. Campbell, and Mr. Delancey, and my other colleagues who are listening on, thank you very much for having us, and we wish you all the best in your journey. Over to you now, Dr. Conrad Christopher.
Okay, so thank you very much for that, Mr. Delancey, Miss Nadine Isaac Dennis, and Miss Kimberly Campbell, as well as Siraya Dean. Thank you for a very informative session, and we welcome you to our additional sessions. Teachers who are here, I know that we've gone over time, but I just would like to address some of the questions that would have come up in both the my inbox as well as the chat. Some of the issues that I have noticed here are cybersecurity issues. They are issues that relate to navigating online platforms and how to use the technology to actually create a more safe and secure environment. We would have gone through navigating platforms, Google, using Google, and how to mute your mics, how to bring the students into how to take control of your classroom. Because with that session, some teachers did not know that if it is you do not enter your classroom first, the student can take control of your class, especially if you're using Google Classrooms, and they will be able to kick you out. So if you have created a Google Meet, you need to be there firstly, and you need to take control of your session, and you need to also appoint your moderators. As far as Microsoft Teams will be concerned, you need to make everyone a presenter. Sorry, make everyone an attendee when they enter your class, regardless of who it is. Make them an attendee so that when it is they need to speak, then they are allowed to share any sort of content, or you can even disable the chat if you do not want them to be having an external chat while it is you are teaching. There are some of the issues that we would have dealt with in cybersecurity as well last year. So you can look back on those sessions, and you can also take some of those sessions that will be coming forward. As for some of the escalating to challenging sessions that are currently, I understand and I know that there are certain issues that teachers are facing and students too are facing, and the psychosocial and emotional support that you are requesting, we will do another session for that psychosocial support. And teachers, I would also ask you to really notice if it is you are actively engaging with your students. So for example, Mr. Mahiz would have said some really interesting strategies, as well as the behavior unit team. And remember, we also have a session on innovative teaching strategies using online, and some of those can be mitigated. What I would like you to also remind yourself is that our teachers too, when they come on, they sometimes do mute their mics. Sometimes we see, last week we saw a husband drinking coffee in a towel. So even though we are saying that our parents are, culpable of certain things, we too sometimes are culpable of the same things that we are sometimes accusing them of. So we know that this is a difficult time, and our students are sometimes demotivated, and it is really important too that we understand the transition to online learning. It is a journey, and I remember the first teacher saying that she actually absolutely hates online teaching, and I could understand that because it is a very big change. So teachers, for those of you who return to the second component of the de-escalating challenging behaviors, also we will post this for you. Not now, however, we post it 2 weeks after because it takes some time to download. I wish you a very good afternoon, and I would call on Ms. Vika Samsundar to begin the professional learning community, whereby with her, we will engage all the teachers here to form a professional learning community. So Ms. Vika Samsundar, the one who said that she was willing to form that community, please reach out to us. We will reach out to you via email. We have your school address, and we will actually engage with that good suggestion for us to have a CDP platform. So for everyone who are here this afternoon, I wish you all the best for tomorrow's session, and I wish to see you on Thursday for the rest of the sessions. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Good
Good
Thank
afternoon.
you.
afternoon.
Thank you. Same to you.
Pleasant
Thank you and
afternoon.
all the best.
Mhm.
Good
Good
afternoon,
session.
everyone.
Thank you so
Enjoy the
much.
rest of your evening,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Planning your lessons.
Same to you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Have a blessed day, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Bye. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Have a pleasant afternoon. Bye-bye.
I'm not familiar with Teams. I'm not sure how to cut this off. Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. If you look to the top of your screen or in the middle of the screen, you would see a red button saying leave. Are you
Say,
able to see that? Saying leave.
I'm looking for the word leave or end and I'm not seeing it.
Or it would just be a red
Check for
button like
hang
a
up.
phone hanging. Yeah, a phone that's
You can check
hanging
for hang up.
down.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a phone. Hang up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, you can click that.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
No problem. Thank you for that assistance. You're welcome.